everybody, it's Bruno on NB, and you know, it all can't be serious, but super jacked to meet my rock and roll brother from another mother from up north in Alberta, Shane Larmand. And Shane, welcome on NB. Do you know what you're getting yourself into?
Well, not exactly, but it's fun. I'm excited about it. It's cool.
Right on. You know what? We're going to take the mystery right out of it. We have our title up here about the music business, and you are no stranger to the music business. Like, were you born like the doctor spank you and you cried out because your guitar wasn't there? Like, you've been around it your whole life, haven't you?
Yeah, my dad was a musician and a great one, and he was very serious about his music. I never really got right into it till my teens, but Dad always had a band going with the older brothers and playing sax and just running the band, right? So good times, running the brothers all over the place, trying out some gigs and stuff. So it was always around me for sure, campfires and holidays and Ma bugging Dad to pull the guitar out, get the guitar out, sing something, right? She'd say, shut up and sing. Right? So yeah, but in my teens, I started learning drums, so that was great. Got into that pretty seriously.
But you're right now you're actually a school teacher teaching music, and we'll divulge how we know each other later. But I mean, kind of an interesting program you're running there. Walk us through that.
Yeah, I love my job here. I teach at a senior high school here in Elk Point, Alberta. Pretty small little town, but great kids, great people. I've been here for about 13 years, and yeah, my music program. And yeah, I'm thankful to my administration and my chief here for letting me do this because, of course, generally your music programs are sort of, your band set up with all the horns and everything, and that's great. It just isn't my forte. So I was talking to him about, well, can I do like almost like a school of rock program, man? And because I can teach guitar, bass, drums, piano, basically, to get by on playing some tunes and having some fun. And the kids really eat it up, and he was all for it. He's like, yeah, do it. And so yeah, just I get a class. Usually I'm a serious sucker for punishment. I get lots of junior highs, right? So I get these junior high music kids for 6 weeks, and we put a band together, about 3 or 4 bands, and play a performance by the end of it. And yeah, it's pretty great. Love it.
And walk us through how many years you've been doing this now. And you have to convince him to do it, not convince him, but you have to pitch it, right?
Yeah, but not too hard. He's a big like AC/DC fan and Iron.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, all the old school stuff. So he's into that. He's a rocker. In fact, getting this job was kind of funny because I showed up as a sub on this brutal snow day. So that got me some points. And then next time I showed up at this school subbing, they were having this concert that he used to put on called Sound Dragons. And I'm like, oh, dude, if you got an opening here, I can help you with this kind of stuff. So yeah, and then the art teacher actually retired that next year, so he had me in, and yeah, then no problem. I got going with this idea about rock band, and we had a great time. We're still doing it, still loving it.
Shane, I do no screening for this, right? So please tell me you didn't show up on your first day of subbing and your name was actually Ned Schneebly, okay?
No, right. No, I do have a teaching degree. It's all good.
Because that's how Jack Black got the job there, right?
Yeah, so not taking it. No, not taking over somebody else's gig. No, this is.
So we're not actually talking to Schneebly rock and roll music. So
yeah, I've got a certificate and everything, a diploma over there on the wall if you need authentication.
there you go. So they have a good print shop up there, so that's good. Okay, forgery is our second art, but you are also an arts professional too. Walk us through that, like in terms of you actually do art. I know music's art, but I'm talking about the other stuff.
Yeah, well, it all kind of comes together and sort of flows together. For years as a musician, I played drums in bands for a while. In my early years, bass for a while in a rock band that went for quite a few years. And then finally, of course, bands being what they are, people move, they get married, they change their minds about what they want to do. And sometimes I'm the guy that had to go and do whatever. And so bands, you do a lot of work and sometimes they just fall apart pretty easy. Nothing against them. They're tons of fun. This is what I tell kids all the time. I'm like, guys, you guys don't form bands anymore. every one of my best friends is a guy I've been in a band with. Like, that's just what it is, you know. There's lots of good times too, right? So anyway, now I finally get to my solo career of doing music, and you know, I've been writing songs forever, like just as sort of a side thing, just playing around with the guitar and what have you. But finally, just deciding to step out and go, okay, I'm going to do this like solo style. And so it's kind of an interesting story. It was in 2018, and there was this contest through what's called Sunrise Records. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bruno? You know, like where all the HMVs used to be, and now
Yeah,
they're
I know exactly what. Yeah.
yeah, they're in the mall or whatever. Well, they have this contest called the Local Artist Contest, and it was like, it's called Local Artist Contest, but it was across the whole country, right? And so I applied for that, and I got tons of my students, buddies, friends. You didn't vote for me, just driving everybody nuts, right? But hey, it got into the contest, and so I had to I had to get them. And then it was like, okay, you got to get them some music, like some actually properly recorded music. I'm like, oh boy, I got to jump on this. So get recording with a good buddy of mine, the same guy I'm recording with tonight. He's great. His name's Jeff Weeks. He's out at 302 Productions in Bonnyville, Alberta, kind of near here. Nice. And so I had to get a little demo together and get some art together and get a cover for it, right? And I'm like, you know, I've drawn for a long time, but I've started to put this cover together, and it's the songs about this little EP was called Steamroller Dreams, and it's a song about Neil Young and his journey to California, and when they formed Buffalo Springfield. So I'm thinking, okay, it's got to have a bison on the front, right? It's got to be. But I'm like, oh, I didn't want it to be, you know, like a normal, regular, detailed, you know, bison. So I kind of did this thing with this sort of line art design, and it's kind of been my style ever since. And yeah, I just really happy with it. It's kind of draws itself, and it's really hard to mess it up. It just kind of always looks good, even with any tiny little flub ups. They just kind of blends into the whole, and the whole, yeah. So I've been doing that. I sell prints and all that kind of thing, right? So it's kind of another little side hustle.
Okay, before we forget, website's down here anyways. It's
www.shanelarmand.com.
Yeah, and I logged on first time I met you, like hours later, and I'm like, what was I talking to this? This guy's freaking good. Right? and we'll, on our second episode, we'll maybe divulge how we know each other, but I'm just like shooting my mouth off, having fun with you. And I was just like, yeah, you know, like I played a little music, and you gave me your name and everything. And he goes, yeah, check out my website. I'm like, oh man, are you kidding me? This guy's like the Derek Jeter of music up north here, man. What's going on here? Like, your stuff is really freaking good. Like, it is super good. And by the way, let's talk about what the music scene is nowadays, because you mentioned some of the kids, they don't form bands. They, you know, it's good or bad. I don't know. I never judge kids because I'm not one of them. But what is it like nowadays? Like, you kind of play live all the time, and you know, you kind of make a living out of it, right? So, like, you're a teacher, that's what pays the bills. I know that. But you also, I mean, you're a recording artist up there. So what's the scene like up there?
Well, you know, scenes are interesting, and they really vary kind of by region, really. Like where I'm from, like I was raised right around Bonnyville, which is near here, and I live in St. Paul now, which is another town near here. So I live in St. Paul, I teach in Elk Point, and I go record in Bonnyville. So I'm kind of all over the place. Bonnyville's pretty busy for a music scene. Lots of guys that like their blues and country and rock and stuff, and just kind of more of a jam scene. You know, there's sort of campouts and stuff that just sort of form and pretty spontaneously, and they, you know, just jams, lots of jams. Edmonton, I find, is a bit more, you know, blues, indie stuff, folk rock, maybe more of the jam rock, kind of like 60s sort of style stuff. Lots of blues. Of course, there's the Commercial Hotel on White Ave, which is just, you know, been a blues hub forever, right?
And Blues on White too, right? Blues on White's still there?
That's Blues on White. Yeah, it's also called Commercial Hotel. Well, the Commercial Hotel's attached to it, right?
Got it. Yeah.
And in Calgary, I find there's more of the rockabilly stuff and more of the you know, like maybe a little more honky tonk, but almost like you know, honky tonk with a grain of salt, like they know it's kind of over the top, but they're just sort of embracing it, kind of type deal. So it's, yeah, in Alberta the scenes are different. Is it, you know, sometimes tough to find shows, tough to find, venues that are paying as much, especially since COVID. It's been difficult and all that. But, I just played a show at a little club off White Ave, the Black Dog. It's been around forever, and it was a nice night. And yeah, so I just, I play a few shows here and there to keep the passion going and everything. You're right, the teaching pays the bills. That's the number one, of course. And I love my gig as a teacher as well. But I just have these creative things I got to do. So
That's it. It was super, super inspiring. Like, let's talk about, we're going to be coming back a second episode. We're going to be doing this a little bit later on. You're going to be playing one of your tunes. I love that part of the show. I haven't done enough about that, of that. So you're talking to young students in your School of Rock all the time, right? At school, and they kind of go, you know what, sir, I want to be a musician forever and ever. What's the number one thing you can tell young people that want to make a real living out of it? Because things have really changed since 80s, 90s, 2000s. Now you don't even cut a record anymore. Like, what am I talking? Nobody even knows what cutting a CD means anymore, right? So what's the biggest piece of advice other than playing well, singing well? How do you make a living out of it now?
Well, it's certainly not easy, that's for sure. I would say, though, ever since I started this sort of more solo part of my music career, and this is often a challenge playing in bands because different guys in the band sometimes have different perspectives on how you should do your marketing, right? And sometimes by having those different perspectives sort of slows the whole process down, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say like marketing and your social media stuff is so important right now. And I even I've kind of come up with like sort of a term. I try to do this thing like mindful marketing, and I'm certainly by no means like there's so many people doing better at this than I am, of course, because I'm working as well and all that. But where it's just like all about, for me, it's about making contacts with people and keeping it very very personal, very real. Too many people come out, put a song out and think, okay, I'm just going to blast this onto Spotify or whatever, and it's going to go crazy. I'm going to go, viral or whatever. No, that's a pipe dream. Even all those guys that do go viral, they either got a ton of money behind them, probably, and most of the time they got a ton of people working with that money that are promoting the heck out of them. It's a lot of work. There's getting on playlists. There's getting your songs to the right record label that's going to want to hire you, right? There's so much to it, like playlists, Twitter management, Instagram management, Facebook management, all of it, right? And for me, Twitter's the bomb. I meet my biggest thing is I always connect with other musicians, and we talk and we share playlists and we support each other on playlists, and it's a really good community. And I just try to. Yeah, I have tons of tips of what I tell young people or anybody and how they deal with each other on social media, because it's like sometimes people get to social media and they forget everything they would normally say if they were standing there looking at the person, right? It's like, there's so many times like I'll stop musicians when they'll email me because I've got a few followers on Twitter and I curate playlists and so people reach out to me and they'll just like you get a guy, oh, here's my song, like. And I just, when somebody does that to me, I'm like, can I send you some advice? Can I give you some advice? Right?
Yeah.
And they're kind of like trepidatious. Ooh, what's he going to say? I'm like, man, before you go throwing me your song, like have a conversation with me. Like make me like, would you walk up to me in a club and say, here's my song without telling me your name or what you do or what you're into, or even asking anything about me, right? Like making it a conversation rather than, so that's a real problem in social media. People need to work on that a lot. But if, I imagine, Bruno, if I would have started like marketing the way I am now, back when I was 15, 16, mind you, there was a total different world then, right? Mm-hmm. Like I had released a rock band that I was playing with in the early 2000s. And back then it was easier to get a gig, but much harder to get your music online, right? You couldn't just throw it on DistroKid or Record Union or whatever, get your song distributed to Apple Music. And it didn't even exist then, right? I mean, mm-hmm. Apple Music existed, but it wasn't like in the form it is now. Mm-hmm. So yeah, things changed, right? Like back then I wouldn't have been able to market like I do now. But yeah, marketing is so huge. It's just like, you can be Eddie Van Halen in your basement, man, but if nobody hears it, right? who
Right.
cares, right? It's, it's too many musicians get that kind of attitude where it's like, oh man, I'm just good enough, it'll happen for me, and that's just not how it happens.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I really fell in love with how you're doing things with the kids right now, and I think that I'm being really honest because we wouldn't be on this podcast right now. And I really love that because it is a different world, and you're willing to keep playing the gigs, keep recording stuff. You're recording a new song tonight, and all that kind of stuff. You have a real job, you got a family life, and you're still willing to give people advice on that. And the kids are great. But you got to promise me we're going to come back in our next episode. And why don't you play us out? For a couple of seconds, play us out on one of your songs, and then we'll come back on the next episode.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, this one was my most recent release. Right now I'm working on a holiday song. It's not out yet, but this is just called Road of Pain, and it's basically a song about learning how to move past sort of, this kind of makes sense with the social media stuff I was just talking about, but learning how to move past, one-sided relationships and toxic relationships. So here we go. Yeah, I used to be such a fool, and you'd have me dance in the rain, yeah. And I try not to please you, and you drag me down that road of pain. You pain, that old farmhouse was our fort. Transformations and tiny wars. There's so much lost in between, and my face a painful memory. Yes, and I used to be such a fool, and you'd have me dance in the rain, yeah. And I try not to please you, and you drive me down that road of pain.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. Shane,
Nice.
it was a pleasure having you on this first episode, and I know you're going to do the other one. So God bless you, brother. It was nice seeing you, and we'll come back. People, you got to tune into the next episode too, because we're going to get a little personal, Shane. So thanks again, Shane.
Thanks, Bruno. You rock, buddy.